friends and family, as Mary said. We got to know Susan. We got to know Susan, who came over for a while, and also we got to know other people, John's sisters, you know, Val's friends. And just the other thing is to see all the children here. I mean, last weekend, I mean, Mark and Catty and Max went down to see my dad. You know, my dad and I have a checkered history, and my sisters have an even more checkered history. We could write novels, you know, you could write a saga about it, but it was just really wonderful, and he was really touched, and we managed to take a photo of 4 generations, so that was really something. So, but I know Val would have loved that too, just that continuity of people. And really, the happiest I ever saw Val was those early mornings on Chindera Beach. You know, Harry and her, and you go for a walk along the beach.
She was
the sunrises, and then sometimes the magic happened. This little Aboriginal fellow was sitting in the bushes playing a didgeridoo, and you never knew whether he'd be there or not. But it was really, that was really a wonderful moment. So I'm just grateful it all came together like that. It was just so wonderful.
Thank you. That's lovely. Does anybody else want to say anything?
Yeah. I think, because I sent an email actually to Mary recently, and one of the things I'd said was that Val was used to taking dogs and animals, and I said she didn't just take dogs, she took people as well. And I'm testament to that, because when I was younger, you know, there was things that happened at home, and maybe I wasn't the best behaved person in the world, with lots of emotional problems, and actually it was decided that Val would look after me for, I think it was it was back in 1990, I remember the year, because I was in year 10, and I lived with her, and I was obviously a little bit worried in the beginning, but actually it worked out really well. It was Leichhardt, I remember I think it was Flood Street, wasn't it? Yeah. And yeah, I mean, I appreciate that, and the fact, and I don't forget that, because that was a part of my life that, you know, because I always knew her as part of the extended family, but to actually live with someone is a very different thing. And she was actually really good to live with, and of course the 2 big dogs as well. I remember that at that time, Bernie and Ben. Bernie and Ben, that's right.
Bernie the human?
Bernie the human.
You have to say Bernie the human or Bernie the dog? Bernie the dog. Bernie the dog?
Yeah.
Bernie the
I
dog.
So I think it's great that someone, you know, I think the generosity, you know, because not everybody would
Well, even
want
when
to do that.
she took the dogs in,
Yeah.
it was always an act of generosity, because she didn't go to a dog store and buy a dog. They just
came to her,
and she took them in.
Look, I landed on her doorstep as well. I went and lived with Val for about 2 months.
You did?
When I did one of my pracs up at Moranbah Hospital, and I absolutely loved it. Val and I, we loved it. We took the walks on the beach on the weekends when I wasn't working, and she was just so generous. And sure, our personalities were different, and you don't agree on everything eye to eye. I was 18, 19, something like that at the time. But never once did we have an argument over anything. We had nothing but absolute respect for each other, and generosity. And her, excuse me, here I go with my mother.
It's in the genes.
I just remember at all the, the events when we were younger. She used to shoot Sturmall and I loved it. We used to sit at the opposite ends of the table. Val would wink at me and say something so controversial. She was like, and Mum would take the bait with me. And all Mel would do would laugh. I loved it.
She was good, because because I remember a story like that with Phil, and you know what Phil was like. Phil and I were in the car, and Val was Val was outside. I don't know where this was, but Val was telling him to back up, and you know Phil didn't want back up, Phil, back up, and Phil turned to me and he says, "I'm gonna kill her in there." I remember that. I do remember that. You do remember things. You remember things, and I do remember that. Because she was, yeah.
It's like a drive.
But a strong person as well.
Yeah.
Definitely a strong personality. And that's why I'm glad that I had the chance, really, like truly, that I had the chance to actually send that email to you. It's very, very important, and I you know, I'm very, very happy that
Yeah, no, it was
that I got
worked
to
out.
do that.
It
And
worked out well. Yeah.
I just can't believe how conservative Val was in this group of people who are pretty liberal minded. She must have been the arch conservative for all time. And
What's
it's just
that?
wonderful to
I
argue
don't know,
with
Was that for real?
Yeah, exactly.
She was
I think maybe part of that was just a shit stir.
It made
I mean, even as a youngster, I picked up on that. Like, you know, was that her way of adding humour to the party? Maybe later on she became a bit more, you know.
Well, the thing is, she was very, very private
Yeah.
about what was really motivating her and what, you know, what she was really doing, and so you don't know.
No.
and so
And you never will know.
unpredictable.
No.
Who could have believed that she'd gone to Vancouver, spent a few months there, buried a dog there, and then came back and wasn't happy here in Australia. So had to go back to Vancouver. God help us. I mean, this is a woman who didn't know her mind at all.
But as Mary, excuse me, I think that's a bit far, thank you, but as Mary said, she's a private person and we won't actually know what motivated all of them. To me, I don't think it's about her not knowing her mind. I think she had a lot of support around her and maybe that was confusing at times. We wanted her here, her family wanted her there, Robin wanted her up in the Blue Mountains, Sue and Derek and the other lady, which I don't know her name, Becky Liz, wanted her in the northern beaches. And I think that added confusion perhaps to a person who was vulnerable. So maybe some of those moves were because one voice was louder than the other, or let's try it. And good on her. If she wasn't happy, she moved back. I don't think it's that she didn't know her own mind.
What I loved about it was her certainty too, of certainty of telling you exactly what you had to do, whatever it was. She was absolutely
But
certain.
that's just her way of speaking.
Yeah, I know. It was lovely.
A spade is a
She
spade.
would have me living in Benora Point.
Absolutely.
No house
She
prices in
was.
the Australia,
Ah,
down in Sydney.
and I'm- oh, I didn't realise, sorry.
Just try to be discreet.
No, I'm being sorry.
I tell you, yeah.